Hello and welcome to the Service-Based Business Society podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany-Ann Bottcher. I left the corporate world to build my own businesses, and along the way, I've learned that scaling isn't all highlight reels. It's messy, it's hard, and it's totally worth it. As a mom of three, the author of The Data-Driven Method, and a serial entrepreneur, I know firsthand what it takes to build something bigger than yourself. This show is where we get real about entrepreneurship. The good, the bad, the beautiful, and yes, even the ugly. Each week, I'll pull back the curtain to share stories, lessons, and strategies that help ambitious entrepreneurs scale their success. So let's get started. Welcome back to another episode. Today's conversation is punchy and practical. We're digging into how to escape survival mode, simplify your marketing, and scale in a way that still protects your time and your sanity. My guest, Safia Sattaur, a certified marketing, business, and sales mentor who helps women entrepreneurs build profitable, freedom-first businesses, is here on the show. With over a decade in the game and her signature Reach 50 framework, Safia focuses on creating sales ecosystems that grow on autopilot. That way, you're not glued to your business 24/7. She's served over 200 clients, grown a community of thousands, and teaches the fundamentals that still win in 2025: message, offer, audience, and the backend that actually converts. Safia is incredibly knowledgeable, and this episode will dive into growth and hustle in a way that we haven't talked about on the show before. We're going to get into the real talk behind sustainable growth, what to fix before you pour on traffic, how to balance family and business empire, plus the mindset shift that takes you from hustling to held by your systems. It's conversational, it's actionable, and it will make you relook at your next quarter. Welcome to the show, Safia.
Tiffany, thanks for having me.
So we were chatting even a little bit before we hit record, and there was a couple of things that came up for me right away, and I can't wait to dive into them. But first, I'd love to just hear a little bit about how you ended up in the online space. Because if I go back, even, I don't know, not 10 years ago, business was done so differently. And so as we were chatting, even before we hit record, we really started to realize how different things affect so many different types of business owners. And I think that the online space really brings a whole new world of resources and information and connection for people who are growing through business. So I'd love to hear how you ended up here and doing your thing in the online.
Yeah, great. So when I started my business, I had 2 kids at the time when I started this business, and I was out literally networking. I was out doing live events, doing live workshops, hosting live events and small, intimate local workshops. And then I had my third. And at that point, I was like, I don't know that I want to be out there. I had this little baby. I'm trying to lose the baby weight. And literally, I'm at my desk and I'm like, let me see what all the buzz is. I don't even know what intuitively led me to social media, but I'm like, let me see what's going on in the social media space. And Facebook was the thing at the time, the Facebook groups and whatnot. And that's when I'm like, let me just start marketing on social media. And so I started with Facebook groups, like so many of the other people in my space at that time. And just like my Facebook page, my Facebook group, going lives, having my own Facebook group, and realizing that I could literally have access to hundreds of thousands of people with the click of a button from my home with my baby in the next room. Right. And so that was what led me to bringing my business online. And the more I did that, the more I realized there's a ton of other people out there that are also building, growing, starting these online businesses. And I think like with many people in my space, you learn as you grow, right? And so as I started adopting strategies, as I started seeing what was working in my business, that by default, I started using with some of my clients and passing that knowledge on, passing those strategies on, and seeing it work so well for some of my clients, sometimes even better than it was working for myself, And so that's what kind of brought me into like the online landscape.
It's so interesting because I have 3 as well, and I transitioned from corporate just after my third. And it was, I'd been in the boardroom for really my entire adult life. And I didn't really realize, you almost you don't really know what you're missing. You do. Obviously as a mom, I was like, I'd love to be home with my kids. But I also was at hey, I went to school for a lot of years and I love my career, and something's got to pay for the roof that we all, you know what I mean? And so, but it was during COVID that being home and seeing all the little things that I was like, I really am missing out on a lot of different things. And what could I do instead, which was crazy because you kind of get on a path, right? You're on a life path and you're thinking, hey, like this is the path, this is what we're doing. And so yeah, it's very interesting that shift of, and going from 2 to 3 is no joke. People say it's, once you have 2, what's 3? I'm like, that is a lie.
Yeah, it's so true. It's such a lie. Like that third one, in some ways it's more difficult, in some ways it's a lot easier, but it is so different. But the COVID position is so interesting because I feel like what happened at that time is that there was like a value shift in the world. I think people really started to reassess how they're spending their time. You literally see people around the world, like randomly here one day and here the next, like, how do I want to be spending my time? And through COVID, interestingly enough, I had such an influx of clients who were in the boardroom, they were like corporate, men and women. And it's like, well, how can I now leverage what I've been doing? Or I'm not happy with what I've been doing, but I know there's something else out there for me. I don't know specifically what that is yet, but I know there's a deeper calling. And that's because they were listening to like what this values of like, how do I really want to be showing up and living my purpose? And so that was such a rewarding time for me to help people really to unlock what that brilliance is and teach them how to package that into something that they can market and they can sell and make a very comfortable life with online, And so there's a lot of bad that came out of it, but I also think there was a lot of really good opportunities that came out of it as well.
Yeah, there's, it's interesting because, fast forward however long, we all try to black out, like, when was that really? It was such a life change, right? And so, but I was speaking to someone yesterday and one of my clients and their wife has had a baby and she's going back to work. And so he said, I said, oh, does she work does she work online? Does she work from home or does she have to go into the office? And so she was like, no, she commutes. But, after COVID, everyone was working from home. But now since she's been gone, the initiative has been now like they want everybody back in the office most of the time. And so it's interesting because I think that we are starting to see that shift now where it's kind of like been far enough away that now people are kind of like, hey, like how are we evolving again? And so he said a lot of people for their organization specifically, like moved, like they were like, oh, well, if I don't have to be here to work here, I've moved away. And so I'm like, oh, that presents a whole new slew of problems for people because now like, it's like, oh, you're expected back in the office. But by the way, I live in a totally different province.
I know that's my husband as well. They just started going back into the office 3 days a week before. For the past few years, it's just been like a hybrid. Now it's 3 days a week. And now they're talking about going back into the city every day. So, I mean, we live in New York, but that commute into Manhattan and things like that, when you're doing it for so many years and then you stop and you realize my commute is literally downstairs, it frees up so much of your time. And I think there's so many studies that were done that workplace productivity was up, like work-life balance was up. People were so much happier working from home. So I always joked, I'm like, everybody's like, oh, I'm working from home. I'm like, guys, this is just Tuesday for me. This is like my everyday,
Yeah.
So everyone's like, do you work from home? I'm like, I've been working from home. So
yeah, totally. I would love to really break it down as to the direction of why everyone is going back. Like, what are because it is more common. And so is it that people wanted them back? And so now it's kind of like, well, everybody else is doing it. So I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and push it. But because there were so many studies and it really was a positive direction for so many people. So I'm curious what, obviously there's always the flip side, right? What is the negative? Yeah. So, okay. I think it's interesting when you're talking about, you get in the online space and there's so many different things, different ways of delivering the message. And you kind of said, I was doing some things and then I was getting some good traction. So then I started, sharing them with others. And I think that was so interesting. This week has been Level Up Summit in Texas, which is for Go High Level, right? And you see so many people who are sharing and not Go High Level related, but saying like, a year ago, I was here as a person in the crowd watching now. And a lot of them, they were people who had developed some kind of bolt-on product for this software. And now it's changed their world, right? They're now doing like these crazy things. They're like, hey, like maybe they bought a new house. They're like, their financial situation is entirely different. Their business situation is entirely different. And all of them are saying like, what a difference a year can make. And I think that it's crazy when you are open-minded to see what some of those different things out there are, that it's like, hey, none of those people set out thinking, hey, I'm going to build an extension or, some kind of add-on to some software that they didn't know about. It's that path, right? Where it's like, that wasn't the path. And so I think that online, the willingness to be open-minded and kind of roll with the different directions is really just an opportunity for everyone.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think the willingness is the key here, because I feel like there's certain people who are meant to be in an entrepreneur role, and there's certain people that are meant to be in a corporate role, right? And if you're in the corporate role and you've got that calling and you step into the entrepreneurship world and role, you absolutely can succeed because you're bringing all those years of experience. But I also think it's because you got that thing. You got that spark. You got that discipline. You've got that drive. You've got that mindset. And that is what actually will take you to that next level, right? And then you've got people who have never, like for me, I've always worked for myself. I mean, I worked corporate for like at a law firm for like a year before my first was born, but I've always sort of been in my own business, always have. And I knew when I had my first child that I wasn't going to go back corporate. I knew that. Like I just, in my gut, I'm like, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew it was going to be building something on my own. And I don't think that everybody has that within them. And I don't say that to be, I don't say that to be cocky, or I don't say that to be like exclusive or anything like that. But I really do see, and I know this from working with so many people who have come to me with an idea. And those people who make it, those people who stay in business, those people who sustain and scale, it's because they have that. There's a lot of people out there that love the idea of having a business more than having the business itself.
Totally.
And so you've got to really be in touch with yourself as well and ask yourself those questions, because yes, it's great to work from home and and it looks amazing when you see it on social media and you see other people. But there is work that goes into that, and there's discipline that goes into that. And you really got to sit with yourself and ask yourself, do I like the idea of this? Or am I like, can I show up and do this every single day? Or is the security and then like the security of knowing that I have a paycheck coming in every 2 weeks, is that more aligned for me? And nothing is wrong with either or. It's just really knowing what your path is and honoring that,
100%. Yeah, it's always, I mean, I worked hard in corporate. I definitely made some great progress there, but let me tell you, I work so much harder now.
Yeah.
Like, it's like it's like I thought I worked hard then, and now I'm like, I worked really hard, but I work way harder now. But it's different. But I don't miss a tournament game. Like, my kids' tournaments start often like on a Friday, and at 3:00, I'm field side, no problem. Like, I have adjusted my schedule to make that work. But it's always just like, hey, but I'll be doing it later. It's not that I'm not doing it. It's just that I've shuffled it.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the things that you're noticing in your own business and that you're implementing for clients that are really those kind of newer things? Because I feel like the online just technology availability is just growing right now. It's crazy. Like, if we had this 6 months ago, the stuff that you'd be talking about as super cool is like so 6 months ago, and I feel like it's evolving so quickly. So what are the kinds of things that you're loving right now?
I'm loving AI. I'm not going to lie. I am loving AI. I love that AI can help us take an idea and just flush that out. I'm not saying it has to replace your thoughts or it has to replace your creativity, but I'm loving leveraging AI, and not just for creative writing or like things like that, but like literally building out calculators. I just created this whole new calculator for some ads performance for another client. And the hours it would have taken me to like sit down and do that, I'm like, just plug these parameters in, and it built me out this beautiful. So I'm loving that. And what I love about that as well is like the versatility of it, because now I have this tool that I can share with clients. Now I have this tool that I can use with multiple clients, right? I'm also loving that I'm seeing a lot of people like understand and appreciate the importance of brand identity. Meaning, I feel like when you come into the online space, you think, okay, it's content you've got to create. You got to put content out. You got to market yourself. You have to do things organically, or you have to do things or you choose to do things via ads. I am in this unique situation because I've done both. I built my business organically, and then I started leveraging ads, and it was a game changer. And so I know what it's like to have ads running in the background of your business, and then also having somewhat of an organic presence complementing each other. And I think for a while there, you had two sides of the camp where it was like everybody was doing it organically, or you're trying to go viral, you're following all the trends, you're doing all the things you see on social media, or you've got all the ads people in the other camp, which is like funnel and this and that, right? What I'm seeing now, and I think it's long overdue, is you actually need both. You need to be blending both. And more importantly, not just for a sales perspective, because that's always like the bottom line, but for a brand perspective.
Definitely.
The industry, as with so many industries, have become so noisy. Like there's competition for everything. And so I always say this from day one, it's never going to change. People buy from people. People buy from the people that they feel that connection to. And so it's easy to pump a couple dollars into ads or like spend hours creating a really good piece of content or trying to figure out how to go viral. But none of those things necessarily build trust and credibility. It's when you can create that connection with your audience and you can cultivate that sense of community, which is what I'm seeing more people lean towards now, really cultivating community with their audience, not necessarily trying to always grow, but how am I creating that sense of community and connection with my existing followers, my existing email list, my existing audience? That I'm loving because I think it's long overdue. I think a lot of people were so focused on growing the numbers, growing the followers, getting to like the 10K months, 100K months, or whatever that metric was that you felt you needed to hit. And I'm seeing, and I'm actually helping a lot of my clients to move in this direction as well, which is it's not necessarily more. It's what we're doing with what we have in front of us and how we're really building out really strong, loyal communities that continue to market for us even when we're not.
Mm-hmm. There's something to be said for having those people in, like, once you have some people online, or I remember when I started, people would ask in like Facebook groups, right? I'm looking for such and such provider. And you would see like people would like, oh yeah, so-and-so. Yep, this person,
right?
so-and-so, so-so. And I was like, how do you get on that list? Like that's the marketing. It's that tag is worth so much because it's not me being like, you got the person who's like, I can help you. And it's like, I mean, of course you're going to say that. It's you.
Yes.
But it's the other people who are like, no, like, Sam's the best. You got to talk to Sam. And you're like, okay, like so powerful. But that is, you don't start out the gate with that. But that is that community. You're talking about that community that is going to be selling when you're not there, because those are the people who, now you're not on Facebook. You're doing something, you're growing your business, you're doing something else. And someone's saying, hey, who's the best, whatever and it's, they're like, oh no, you got to talk to so-and-so. You got to talk to so-and-so. And so, that's that credibility piece for sure.
The community, yes. But I also think that speaks a lot to service, right? So I'm a big believer in people over profit, right? And for your audience, all service-based business owners here that are probably listening to this podcast, it's the service you deliver. It's the quality of over-delivering almost, right? Without undervaluing yourself, of course. There's a whole other conversation around that. But same thing, like I can hire another ads agency. I can hire another social media. I can hire another content creator, copywriter, blah, blah, blah. There's a dime a dozen. But when you value the client in front of you, you show up for that client, you deliver with excellence, you prioritize the people over the profit. That's what builds that connection and that like cult-like community where people are like, oh my God, you've got to work with my girl, Safia. You got to like call her. And that's that back in the day, not back in the day, people are still tagging now, but that's that same like word of mouth inculcating the market and everybody just wanting to work with you and is building that expert level, like sought after status, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think it's really TikTok for me that it seems to be showing people that they're running ads for running ads. And I think they phrase it really well in that they're saying like, hey, like, so you've got your message that you like, it's just taking that message and just getting it in front of a bigger audience. And they have like creators doing the ads for this. Yes. And so I'm like genius, first of all. I love good marketing. Like when people nail the marketing, you're like, so good. Like that was great. And you're like, this is well done. But today I was literally like doing my little doom scroll there, guilty pleasure, TikTok every once in a while. And so I'm like, I'm getting ready in the morning and I'm flipping through, I'm like blow drying my hair and like doing the doom scroll at the same time. And there's this ad and it's this person that's, it starts out with, I'm going to save you from all the things that you should not buy in the TikTok shop. And so it's this creator. And so she's got her first one. She holds up this, hey, this is really thin. It doesn't fit very well, blah, blah, blah. And then she gets on this whatever makeup that they're all promoting right now. And she's like, and like, is this even supposed to match my face? And like, she's putting it on and you're like, you can see right away that it's good, right? And she's like, I mean, maybe I'd buy this one because it's great, right? And you're like, oh, we were, because everyone loves the negative, like, oh, I would never buy it. It's like, it sells when you're trying to anti-sell, really, don't buy these things. And then like, you like drop in the like, oh, by the way, this one's amazing. You're like, I see what you did there. I see what you did. And it's a paid ad, right? And so you're like, why would someone pay to run an ad that says don't buy these things? And then you're like, aha, because we're actually like, it's crazy. The level of genius that goes into, I love the like.
Listen, I geek out over stuff like that. I study funnels. I study ads. I study marketing. I love that stuff. Lights me up because it's like, you have to, and if that's the thing, right? Like the market is so much more sophisticated. The market knows when it's being sold to you. And some people love being sold. Like I almost don't beat around the bush. What are we selling? Just get to it, right? Again, you have to know your message, know your story, know your vibe, and also know your audience. And I think that in a lot of spaces in terms of like B2B or services, people know, like people have caught on. And I think the more authentic you can be, the more funny you can be, the more real you can be, the more human you can be in spite of AI, the more people will, again, comes back to that connection, right? And something like that TikTok that you watched, you felt that connection to the girl because you're like, it was funny, it was relatable. Okay, maybe I will buy that, right? Versus this blends perfectly or this whatever, like, that's you're being marketed to in that way. So from a marketing perspective, you always have to be thinking outside of the box. You always have to be like looking at the different angles and the different objections and the different, all the things. And how are we putting it together in a way that's unique to this particular client and unique to this particular product or offer that you're selling?
Yes. I love that because I feel like I also geek out on these kinds of, I'm like, I love a good sales process. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm enjoying the process here. Like let's really, because you can tell that someone's like dialed it in, right? You're like, okay, so we're doing this, that was a perfect follow-up, just the right time, great messaging. It's so funny. I do the same thing over like different content. I'll be like, that's something. One of my kids will be like, hey mom, have you seen this? And I was like, oh, I love that edit. And my daughter always rolls her eyes. She's like, that's not what I'm showing you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's good. It's good. I like it. It's oftentimes it's those out of box thinking, I mean, if we look at Red Bull, I feel like Red Bull did it so early on, right? I mean, you've never seen Red Bull other than Red Bull gives you wings, which I mean, even my 6-year-old is like, but mom, it gives you wings. They don't ever market their product. No, I mean, they've built there is like literal sports that have been like created, like, professional cliff diving at the Red Bull, like, it's like nothing is about the drink anymore. It's like, it's just a presence in places. And I just like, I love like watching and observing to see where people go with these kinds of things.
Absolutely agree. And I think that's also like such a testament to how different it gets to be. Like it doesn't have to be the traditional TV ad or social media post. It could literally be like, I'm working with a client right now and there's an event that's happening in the city and it's a designer's event and it hasn't been marketed. But what they're doing is just, everybody is just wearing the outfits. And it's all influencers, all social media creators and things like that. And the marketing is just going to be, damn, that looks amazing on her. There's no flashy marketing. There's no big ad budget. There's nothing like that. It's just the clothes will speak for themselves on these people who have a massive following. Because when you look good, you tell me the girl's not going to post it. She's not going to like show it off and tag it. That's the beauty. Like marketing has evolved. And if you're not evolving with it, you're leaving so much opportunity on the table. Like small businesses, online entrepreneurs, there's so many different ways of looking at marketing now besides just let me run an ad or let me try to go viral, right? And you've got to start to think outside of the box because everybody's doing the traditional methods, right? And you've got to really start to, how can I be innovative with my marketing? You don't need to recreate the wheel, but how can you be different? How can you not, I hate to say this, but stand out in a way, but at the same time, stay in integrity of your brand voice. Because there's a lot of people who might try to do that. And then it's like, you missed the mark because now you're trying to do what you saw some other brand doing and it just doesn't fit. It doesn't align and that flops and people will remember that too, right? So it's really, really important that whatever strategy, whatever you look at, it also aligns with your brand voice, aligns with your brand values, your mission, and things like that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, you saw that campaign. It's like a small, I interpret it to be small just based on location, the Mercedes dealership in Alberta.
Okay.
So they started running these, it was, I think on TikTok is where it started. And they have like realistically, it's crazy. It like went totally viral. And then all these other car dealerships are like trying to copy it. And so now it's like the Temu version of the original, really is like what some of it feels because they nailed it. Right. And so, and it's just turned into this whole thing. I actually was geeking out and reached out to their actual social media manager and was chatting with her because I was like, hey, like, this is crazy. Like, did you know that this was going to, and she's like, no, we were just having fun. And I think selling cars, if we think about like scammy sales, when people, where do people go to? Don't be a used car salesman. These are Mercedes. They're not used cars. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not. And so now it's like, okay, we have to create content all the time. This. And so she's gone like, hey, I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to be different. They actually went and like ended up going to like the Mercedes in Europe. And like, it's been this whole thing. And so I love seeing that just, how are you doing it differently? Right. And putting your spin, but still being true to yourself, because now you have these other car dealerships who are trying to do the same thing. And you're like, yeah, that's not quite the same because it doesn't feel as authentic to them, right? It's just, it's like, it's out of alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's okay to like experiment, but just know when you're like veering off a little too much.
Totally. It's interesting though, because I think that, at one point people are like, oh, I got a website. And I remember it's like, you're like, oh, I have this idea and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, I got a website. And so it's like, okay, well, everybody has a website now. Like that, It's not hard to get a website. Yes. And so you're like, okay, well, I'm going to run ads to the website. And it's like, people spend a lot of money on, and I feel like everyone at one point goes through their whole ads are going to solve my business problem. And so they they spend a bunch of money and they're like, I got nothing from these ads.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, but the concept of paying for more traffic, ultimately, if whatever you were offering was not great and you just pay for more of that, it's just more of not great. And so
I always say that. I'm like, ads are not the magic pill.
No.
Even if on the surface, your face front, your website, the landing page, what have you, has nailed the messaging and is perfect, and you get the lead, you get the sale. If your back end cannot back that up, then, you're wasting your money. You're throwing your money away on the ads. And you're also doing such a disservice to the person who trusted you to give you their information and their money, right? And so I say this a lot with clients who are doing like lead gen ads, which is, once you have paid, whether it's in your time or in your money to acquire that lead, it is your responsibility. It's your due diligence to convert that lead. You might get them to opt in, you might get them to register for whatever, but what are you doing on the back end to retain them and convert them into a client and to increase their lifetime value? Right? So now you've got the lead, how much ever you paid for it, what are we doing at that point? So to your point, yes, if you're running traffic to something that sucks, it's going to suck regardless. But even if you've done all the AI or hired the best copywriter and the best designer and everything, and you've got the perfect front facing offer and they get in the door and you can't back that up, you will absolutely just be throwing money away. So a lot of the times I tell my clients, they're like, let's build the back end first. Let's make sure your back end is very solid. I'm not saying we need to put all the bells and whistles and throw a lot of time into it, but we have to make sure your offer is solid. The deliverables are solid. These are the things like, again, quality over quantity, people over profit. I don't care how much money you're wanting to spend to bring people in. If they're in and you're not taking care of them, you're going to lose them, and you're going to lose them fast, and you're going to lose them along with their friends because they're not going to recommend, right? And it's this like chicken up before the egg situation where a lot of people are like, well, I need to grow before I start focusing on like building all these other things. But no, I think it's like, build it. You don't need to go above and beyond and build an entire thing, but make sure that the foundation is really strong. Your deliverables are solid and in place. Test it to a small audience if you have to before you release it to a bigger audience, but make sure people are going to get the result from whatever it is that you're selling. And then let's throw traffic at it. Let's scale it, right? And sometimes we'll just want to get to that finish line. They just want, they just see that the volume, but don't chase the volume. chase the quality first,
Absolutely. Yeah, because I'm sure every business owner can think of one client that they knew on the way in was not really a fit. And it was like a timing thing where you're like, we have capacity right now. It'll be fine. Famous last words. It'll be fine. It is a slog. It is never enjoyable.
Yes.
It is like, oh my gosh, I can think of a client at one point and it was just like it's not alignment on communication.
Right.
And it's like, I say blue and she's like, why did you say red? And you're like, no, I said blue. And she's like, you said red. Why is it red? I'm like, no, but it was blue. We are so happy to have you, but it is blue. It is so blue. Yeah. And it's just like, I'm like, I knew this was not right. And so, it's making sure that. And at one point, our marketing messaging, I had worked with someone to change some of our messaging, and we were ending up with more of those kind of people. Okay. We had more incoming, but like not the ideal fit. It's just it. And so, years ago, I remember when I was still in corporate, it was like we did a lot of like innovative stuff, and I remember someone saying to me, Tiffany-Ann, it used to be like a banana down a carburetor, and lately it's like a pineapple down a carburetor. And I'm like, okay. And now it's like in my mind, and I can think, I haven't seen this guy in years, but I think of this comment that he said. For like the next 10 years, because when something is not quite in alignment, whether that's the client, whether that's the offer and your actually ability to deliver it, or it goes from like, hey, we're going, we're doing, and then like can be a rough road if it's not quite right.
Yeah. So how do you, Tiffany-Ann, in your company, how do you deal with clients like that? I'm turning the questions around. Sorry.
I love it. This is not usually the direction we go. It's tough. I actually have said that. We had a meeting last week and I said, I'm not good at trying to not, like, recently I had someone, the last person, and I said, I really am not sure that we're the best fit for you. We're very modern and innovative. It's like most things are on the cloud, virtual. We have clients all over North America, but we do have a really good base of local people. And so, but it's like, just because we are still accustomed to I have a client across the continent and I can do business with them, no problem. So the fact that you're, across town, ultimately that doesn't really change a lot in terms of how our processes go. So I was like, I don't really know if we're the best fit for you. And she's like, well, I heard you're great, so I want to do it. And I was like, now what do you say? Because I was like, thank you. But it's like, I knew right away that I'm like, oh, but she loves paper. She's like, oh no, like I love my paper. And I was like, oh, it's really tough. Paper doesn't do virtual very well. And so it's that piece. And I am not great at I'm like, okay, but now what? Now I know you're not really the best fit for us. Yeah. And so I always, I always just think, what, that comes down to really trying to work on that messaging on the way in and make sure that it's super clear. Our client agreement really lays out very clearly who is responsible for what. And
but then you're still going to have situations where if someone heard about you through someone, I just want to work with this person because you got X results for that person and I want similar results, right? And what doesn't matter what's said on paper, this is the person I want because I want those. I either want to work with you because you're sought after, or I want to work with you because my friend or this person or this other person told me, or I've seen the results you get. So I want that replicated in my business. And they're not thinking about that misalignment. They're not thinking, I always say no two businesses are the same, right? And for me personally, I customize everything I do for my clients, right? Every client gets a customized strategy based on their unique business, even them as a business owner, right? I remember once I actually had to fire a client and give them a full refund after working with them for a while because it had been like 2 months in. And at that point, there were several communication barriers and there were several things that, for lack of a better word, I felt like there was no responsibility on their end. And we had just started, it was like just starting our second month together. And I was like, if this is how the first month is, I can only imagine how the next few months is going to be. And I had a very frank conversation and I actually ended up sending them a refund and without even negotiating back and forth, because I knew for myself, and this is something I've had to learn in business over the years, is that is a very strong boundary for me. My time is so valuable. And the time that I'm going to put into a client is so valuable that you're getting my brain, my team, my resources, my support, my strategy. And if it's not going to be received or it's not going to be executed upon or whatever the thing was, I'm trying not to give too many details away here, but I know that that's my time could now be spent on another client or with my children or at the gym or somewhere else. And so
Exactly.
to me, that's a very hard line for me is when my time boundaries are pushed and I have no worries giving you the refund because I know that another client is just around the corner from me. That's not something that I worry about. But yeah, that alignment, knowing what that alignment is so key. But I'll tell you, like starting out in my business, I probably would have held on. Can't afford to lose a client. Heck no. Like I'm going to do everything. I'm going to twist. I'm going to bend. I'm going to break my own boundaries for that client because I need that money or I want that portfolio builder or whatever the case may be. And it's unfortunate that we sometimes feel like we have to do that. Especially when starting out. And I get it. Like you have to know what your values are, what your financial situations are. And I mean, I wouldn't have been able to say that in the beginning, but I'm very grateful that I'm able to do that now.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's tough. I had a great client. She calls me. She's like, so someone asked for your number. Don't work with her. You don't want to work with her. And I was like, oh, great. Well, thanks for giving her my number. And so like I see the call pop up on my calendar and I'm like, okay. And I mean, even had she not told me that it was probably not a fit, I knew from the call it was not a fit. And I was trying to like dance, but it's like now it's like she knows someone. So you're like trying to dance a little bit out of it. It was tough. That was rough. And I like tried my best and she just was like, no, I really want to do it. And I was like, oh, I'm trying not to be blunt. I'm trying to and it's like, it was so tough.
Just be like, so what was your budget? And then
that would have been, because I was like, oh, how am I going to dance out of this? And in the end, she was so upset that we didn't end up working together. She went in like a Facebook group and my client was like, oh yeah, she was angry. She was like, yeah, it seemed like she didn't even want to work with me. And blah, blah. And I was like, man, saying no is actually way harder than saying yes. But I think in business, that is, we really have to. And same thing, when I started out, I said yes to way more things because it's like, okay, you're getting some traction but you just have to not get in the habit of doing that forever. I always say, there's a lot of people on the online space. Like I look at Gary Vee as an example, who was like, hustle hard, hustle for years. It was like if you're not doing meetings at 3 a.m. and blah, 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 then like, what are you even doing? And then it was like this weird shift of like, now it's like, it went way back the other way. And I was like, okay, but you built your empire on the 3 a.m. meeting and the hustle. And so if you're giving that advice to people who don't yet have an empire, they cannot, you can't like skip over the steps. So I do, it's like, you got to earn your stripes. And sometimes the stripes suck, for lack of a better word, but knowing though, as you grow, it's like not staying in that. It's like, okay, we've evolved. Actually, now it's like, we don't have to, because a lot of times people get into like, oh, well, of course we have to just do it. And it's like, well, but do you? Is it even profitable? Is it affecting your team? I saw it's like if it's hard on your team and it's not super profitable and you're not enjoying it, like what are we really doing here? It's no different than when the kids come home from sports and it's like it's like, guys, we are doing this to have fun. Just so we're clear, like when we started this, it was because we liked it. It's like, it's tough.
I think like hustle doesn't have to be a dirty word either.
No.
Right? Like I think that there's this negative connotation with hustle, or this like badge of honor connotation with hustle, which is like, I hustle and therefore that's where I'm at. Or you're hustling and so therefore you're burning out. And I think that everything, it only has meaning with the meaning you give it, right? And so hustle does not have to be this dirty word. I think that, and in like the feminine entrepreneur space, it's like your feminine energy or your masculine energy, right? And to your point, you have to have those seasons where you might have to work a few more hours. You might have to put in a couple more, work on the weekend, hustle, miss a couple of games or whatever the case may be. But I think it's the recovery from that and the sustainability of that. Like if you're hustling and then you're finding yourself every day you're hustling, that's when we've got a problem. If you hustle for 2 weeks and then you put systems in place or you have a process now so that the next time around you hustle, but you hustle a little less, that's progress, right? And I think that that's when we get to look at hustle as not this dirty word or this thing that to be proud of or to be shamed about, but more of like, this is just how I'm showing up in this season of my business. Yes. And if I'm smart, I'm putting things in place in this season of my business. So the next time around that I need to show up in this way, it's a little easier or it's a little bit more streamlined or efficient or whatever it is for your unique business. And I think that's what people fail to do. They hustle, they get through this. And it's like, I talk about this a lot with survival mode, right? Like you hustle and you get through this and it's like you're in survival mode because you got to make that next sale. You've got to launch. You've got to hit your income goals. You've got to do whatever the thing is for you. And you never evolve out of that.
Yes.
It's like, okay, so I did what I had to do. I hit that milestone. Now let me take that same energy and apply it to the next milestone and the next milestone and the next milestone. And it's just not sustainable. It's not. And that's when you see far too many incredibly talented, brilliant people burning out or burning their businesses down. And it's because that's not a sustainable model. Like you can hustle, but you better make sure when you're hustling, you're being smart about how you're putting things in place. Again, for lack of sounding like beating a dead horse over and over, but putting things in place so that you're working smarter, not harder, whether that's a team, whether that's an SOP, whether that's an automation, whatever that is, you've got to be hustling smarter, basically.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. When I started the podcast, it was, scaling without losing sleep was kind of like this piece.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because in my mind, it's because I believe it's like, let's optimize, let's do these kinds of things. And then it was actually someone reaching out, doing like some podcast guest reach out that was like, I love your messaging about like never losing sleep over your business and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, where does it say? Like, I literally like said to like someone on my team, I'm like, where does it say that? Do we say that? And he was like, yeah, I think it's like in the intro. I was like, it is? Because it's like, you know what I mean? Like you kind of get going, right? And I was like, well, that's not very authentic. And he was like, yeah, I always wondered. He's like, you did that before I was here. He's like, I don't know. That's what you say. And I was like, yeah. So I literally went back at the beginning of like, this is season 5. And I went back and I re-recorded the intro. And every time I log into our platform, the like initial trailer now that was like the first thing that was ever launched in the podcast is sitting in draft because I'm like, yeah, that feels really out of alignment. And the first episode of the season, I say scale it. Like I lose sleep, but it's by choice because it's like, it's I get going on something, the other night I was like down a rabbit hole working on some AI stuff. And I was like, my husband was like, you seem like you're really into whatever you're doing over there. Like, are we going to bed soon? And I was like, you go ahead. I'm in. And I was really thoroughly enjoying it. I'm like, I am so happy to lose sleep over this. It's like, it's a difference. And so it's like the growth and the evolution and not staying, stuck in that same thing.
Agreed. Totally.
Yeah. Yes.
And I get into those zones too. Go ahead.
Right. I love when you're really in the zone and it's like you're down a rabbit hole, you're working on something and it's like, this is fantastic. So what is one tangible tip that someone can implement in their business from your perspective that can really drive that difference for them?
Tangible tip. I think I said it earlier and I would reiterate it and I say it over and over. Just build systems, build a system. Put things in place in the background of your business that runs 24/7 so you don't have to. Again, it comes back to what I was saying before, whether that's an SOP, an automation, a team member, something has, scheduling posts, whatever it is for your unique business. We are not meant to be our business. We are an extension of the business, or the business is an extension of us.
Yes.
Right. And I think it's so easy to get our identities caught up in our business. And it's hard for a lot of people to detach from that. And that's when you see people losing marriages and getting unhealthy and all these different things, right? And so systems are meant to make your life easier. Structure, systems, support. It is the most valuable asset you can build in your business because it's that thing that's repeatable. It's that thing that's going to allow you to scale. And it's also the thing that's going to make your business sustainable. So that I will go hard all day, every day, preaching for systems, strategies, and structures in the back end of your business.
I love it. I could not agree more. What a fantastic discussion. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Tiffany-Ann.
So if someone wants to connect, learn more about what you do, where is the best place for them to do that?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm Safia Sattaur everywhere. You can find me on Instagram, though. Send me a DM. I'm super open to like conversations. I love when people send me DMs and just connect there. And I also have a private podcast series. Like I did a little 6-part secret audio series so they can find out a little bit more about my systems and strategies and things like that and how I help my clients through that series.
Fantastic. I love that. And I love it's like mysterious. I'm like, ooh, a secret. I'm like, what, I want that. I love that, right? It's just that those little differences that's immediately so interesting. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. It's been fantastic.
Thank you so much.
That's all the time we have for today. But the conversation doesn't stop here. Be sure to subscribe to the Service-Based Business Society podcast on all of your favorite apps. And if you're hanging out over on YouTube, search for Tiffany-Ann Bottcher. Your likes, comments, and shares don't just help the show, they help more entrepreneurs find the real stories and strategies that they need to scale. Until next time, keep pushing, keep building, and I'll catch you in the next episode.